When I was teaching news writing back in 2006, something funny was beginning to happen. Out of nowhere, textbooks would talk about the rise of the internet and how that would herald a new age of citizen journalism that would eventually make professional media outlets obsolete. But that didn't happen back then. Back in 2006, the internet was slow, and so-called citizen journalism consisted of text-based blogs. This wasn't going to topple the broadcast empires of NBC or CNN anytime soon. Now, what I didn't know back then was that day would eventually come. And the moment that signaled the arrival of this era was the presidential election of 2024. This was a battle of viewpoints between different types of media. Traditional or legacy media heavily favored the Democrats, while podcast or online media heavily favored the Republicans. The result was a shock to traditional media. Now, why did it happen now and not back in 2006? A number of things need to be in place. The first is video. The internet needed to be fast enough to stream video. Smartphones needed to have good enough cameras and large enough memory capacities to record and store video in HD quality or higher. Text-based blogs weren't going to topple the media establishment, but personal video channels would eventually do the job. Another thing is the loss of trust. Prior to this era, traditional media outlets tended to be more balanced. They may favor a political party, but they would also report on the opposing point of view. They made an effort to uphold the long-standing American tradition of balanced coverage. Now that began to fray with the election of Donald J. Trump in 2016, when some of the things that he said were so outrageous that many traditional media outlets and reporters decided they didn't want to give him a platform. They started viewing balanced coverage as a kind of false equivalence. They believe they have the moral prerogative to dismantle this type of false equivalence, and the result is they cover just one side and say only good things about the one side and bad things about the other. To exacerbate the problem, by now, inequality had become so bad that the 15% of the population who could afford a paid subscription to established media outlets are mostly college educated, and the people who work in traditional media outlets are also college-educated elites. Legacy media has turned into an echo chamber for left-leaning elites who look down on the people without college and who speak to them in ever more condescending ways. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. You're voting against your own self-interest. You're enabling racism, sexism, fascism, Nazism, and all kinds of isms that people learn to despise in college. I don't want to have anything to do with you if you don't think the way I do. Legacy media becomes increasingly preachy, inaccessible, and out of touch with ordinary people, especially people who didn't go to college. Listen to this clip from the podcaster Alex Cooper.
There's a lot of people who say they distrust the legacy media, and they actually trust you over the legacy media.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious, if you were advising us, what you would tell us to do.
Unfortunately, yes, you're right. That has shifted. And I think there has been a wave of skepticism within the Gen Z. I'm just speaking for Gen Z and millennials, honestly. Like, I think a lot of us feel like we're getting sold a crock of shit every week, because when someone is knocking at you every day, like, believe this, believe this, believe this, and it's the only thing you're constantly talking about, people don't want to be told what to do anymore. I think Gen Z, the minds of young creators and adults and young individuals, people want to figure it out for themselves. They don't want to be told what to do. So I think my advice would be finding a way when you are creating, or whether you are selling or in business, finding a way to find any form of humanity that is not so perfectly lined up that it feels like, I'm getting sold a fucking ad. Like, come on, like, this is bullshit. It has to feel somewhat more organic. And I know that's challenging, but maybe you should give those young interns more of a voice, and maybe you should listen to them when they have some ideas.
Nobody likes stuff that isn't authentic. Nobody likes people who talk down to you. Nobody wants to listen to people who dismiss your point of view, especially when their point of view is completely wacko to people outside of their filter bubble. And that, I think, is the lesson for traditional media. Now look, nothing personal. I used to work for traditional media. I used to work in one of these global news empires, and still look back on these days with fond memories. But if they want to stay relevant in an age when podcasts are outpacing traditional media in viewership, then the first step is to pop that filter bubble. Well, everybody, hope you liked that video. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want more content, you can follow me on Facebook, X, and YouTube. See you guys next time.